What's going on, Warriors? It's Coach Jay. Listen, guys, today we're gonna dive in. I'm gonna let you guys know important things that you need to know when it comes to dealing with a low blood sugar level. Now, a lot of times things kind of get swept under the rug. We just do things that we're used to or we've been told. But when you understand this can help you to really get ahead of some of these lows and stop massive, dramatic lows from happening, and also putting yourself in the right direction to take things to the next level, get better control, feel better overall, and then also avoiding things like the rebound that happens when you're going up and you're going down. You're gonna be able to anticipate how much more glucose you need on board to be able to navigate and balance out your blood sugar better as well. So we're gonna dive into that today. If it's your first time on the channel, I help type 1 diabetics to build muscle, burn body fat, and control their blood sugars overall. But hey, if you're not a diabetic, but you like things like supplement reviews, I also do supplement reviews, and I also do vlog style videos, and truly just helping to revolutionize how we look at type 1 diabetes to take things to the next level when it comes to knowledge, power, respect, baby. Let's just dive right in, man. I was just feeling the energy off of that one. When you're taking your insulin, let's say over here we're at 0 hours, we want to take insulin for the food that we had. Now, if we're taking insulin for the food that we're eating, and we notice that around 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and sometimes give or take a little bit more than that, you might notice that your blood sugar is starting to go low within that time frame. If that's happening to you, you're likely going to need more glucose and more sugar to bring that blood sugar up. The reason is we have to look at the peak time of insulin. The peak time of insulin is when insulin is most active in your system. It's at its maximum strength. So that means that if you go low within 1 to 2 hours, and sometimes up to 2.5, you can even see 3 sometimes, that happens in that time frame, you're likely going to nosedive pretty low and you're going to need more glucose to bring yourself back up, rather than if the low happens towards the end over here at the 5-hour mark. Reason being is because the duration of a rapid acting insulin that you would take for your food is going to last about 5 hours. But that peak time when it has its maximum strength is at about 1 to 3 hours. So if you're nosediving here at about 1 hour, you still have 4 hours left on that insulin that you have to account for, meaning that that 4-gram glucose tablet is just not gonna work. This is one of the reasons why I also advocate for things like orange juice, because you can easily get 30 grams of an orange juice if you overshoot it and get your blood sugar up fast rather than eating a whole tub of glucose tablets. And so when you understand things like the peak time better and you understand that it's at its maximum strength, then you can understand that, oh, how much time do I have left? I'm likely going to need to anticipate that I need more glucose. What's that's going to do? Maybe you're an athlete and you're only doing 4 grams at a time, but you started going low within 2 hours after your meal, meaning you're just still in that maximum peak time of insulin, and your workout's going to dive you lower because working out increases insulin sensitivity. Then you're going to wind up putting yourself in a position where your blood sugar is going to go up here. It's going to go all the way down again at the 3-hour mark. You got more sugar here, bring it back up again, and now you're on the roller coaster. Welcome to the theme park. And so we want to avoid that theme park. And to do that, we can understand that when are you going low in relation to how much insulin you have left and in relation to what the peak time is of that insulin from when you first injected it. So key thing to remember that, because now you can get ahead of it and make sure you're giving yourself enough glucose. I can almost guarantee that if someone had 10 units of insulin and they're going low at the 1-hour mark, 4 grams of a glucose tablet is likely not going to work. You're going to have to make up for the rest of some of those the insulin dose that you gave yourself so that you can boost yourself back up. Maybe you need 30 grams of an orange juice to bring yourself up, not 4 grams of a glucose tablet over here. Whereas if you went low at the 5-hour mark, maybe you might only need that 4 gram of a glucose tablet because the insulin is almost completely out of your system. Now, what this can also do is help you guys to avoid, again, that roller coaster. If you're overcorrecting or undercorrecting, or you're not sure how the peak time of insulin, that duration of that insulin is going to impact your blood sugars, then you're going to wind up on that roller coaster ride in that theme park that you don't want to be in. If you can then estimate better how much you're going to need to be able to handle what you're taking in. Goes without saying, it's not all about chasing and finding the right juice or the right glucose to be able to avoid these lows. But it's also about asking yourself a couple questions to figure out when you need to change your ratios. You gotta ask yourself, did my blood sugar go low within 1 to 5 hours after having my insulin shot for my food? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then you likely need to change your insulin to carb ratio, because that insulin is just nosediving you into a low blood sugar level that doesn't need to happen. Now, if you want to dive deeper on that, you ask yourself, did that low happen within 1 to 2 hours of having my insulin for the food that I ate? If that's the case, then you know you're way outside of where you should be for your insulin to carb ratio, because that peak time is going to nosedive you, plus you have another 3 hours of that insulin on board. So when you make your shift, you can be more aggressive with your insulin to carb ratio shift. So maybe instead of a 1 to a 10, you know you need to go up to a 1 to a 15. Or instead of a 1 to a 7, maybe you're going to go up to a 1 to a 9 or a 10, because it's just way too aggressive from this picture. So these are ways that you can interpret what's happening with how much you need to shift for your insulin to carb ratio as well, to avoid those roller coasters from happening. Something simple that you guys can focus on to help to keep the blood sugars a little bit more stable, or understand what you need to do to get more control over your scenario, especially when it comes to understanding the action time of insulin, especially rapid actings. Now, every rapid acting is going to be slightly different. So you might have, for example, Humalog, which might be slightly different than a Nova Rapid, whereas the time frame or the action time of the insulin is a little bit different. But within that realm, on average, you're going to see that between 1 and about 2 hours, or 1 to 3 hours, because we need to take into account that there are individual differences between people, how they're going to process that insulin resistance. What are some foods that you're also eating, having in there? Is the food higher in fats? Because maybe that might interfere with some insulin signaling. And so details like that are also important to note in terms of the action time of that insulin as well. But more or less, using this average can help you to understand what you need to change from a ratio perspective, and help you to understand how much glucose you need to have on board to help to avoid that low from continuing to happen down the line as well.